Welcome back, punkheads, to a brand new Friday Fright Reviews. I'm AJ Punk 15, and this Friday night we're going to talk about James Wan's 2013 modern horror masterpiece, The Conjuring. The Conjuring stars Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson as Ed and Lorraine Warren. Throughout the 60s and 70s and early 80s, the Warrens were renowned demonologists or psychic researchers in the paranormal. The Conjuring is actually a case file taken from the Warrens' own records. This case file of The Conjuring are actually based on true events that the Warrens have actually done themselves. This particular case file of The Conjuring actually focuses on the Perron family. Family of 7, including a mother and father and 5 young girls, move into a new house, and as the days and weeks go by, certain things happen and escalates extremely quickly to the events of The Conjuring. We find out about this evil entity known as Bathsheba very early on in the film, that she was actually hung on the land that she did own, which now the Perron family actually live in. Lily Taylor plays the mother of the Perron family. In this particular case file, we find out that Bathsheba attaches herself to the mother and takes control of the host of the mother to murder the children. The film opens up with an amazing little setup to a side story about the doll named Annabelle. This doll is supposed to be haunted, and at the very start of the film, the Warrens are interviewing the people that gave them the Annabelle doll for their records, and we find out these 2 nurses who actually lived with another one of their friends who was male. A lot of things started going wrong. Strange things started to happen. And one thing to note about this doll Annabelle is actually the actual doll is a Raggedy Ann doll, whereas this one is a lot more creepy, and I think it played well into the film itself. I think it was a very smart move for James Wan. A Raggedy Ann doll isn't really scary, but if you give this porcelain doll-esque type thing an entity and make it believably scary like he did in so many other films like Saw and Dead Silence, I think it worked well. Acting in this film is absolutely amazing. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson embodied the Warrens from what I can tell, and I know for a fact Lorraine Warren actually give her full praise to this film. Actually did it justice. I know a lot of things are amped up and progressed faster for the film, but apparently the film was actually pretty close to the representation that actually happened. That being said, The Conjuring is one of the most impactful and scary films I've ever seen. And when it comes to horror, I think James Wan brought back modern horror to its roots. There wasn't a lot of jump scares. There might have been 1 or 2 jump scares in this, but they worked for what they were. There was no just fake jump scare crap where nothing is actually going to happen. The jump scares were meant to be there for a reason and to escalate the story even further along. That's what I love about a jump scare. I mean, John Carpenter did it in the original Halloween with Dr. Loomis grabbing hold to Sheriff Brackett's shoulder, but he did it in a way that it progressed the story. It's not just to introduce a new character or to say hi to your best friend or a cat walk past for no reason, just to give some false tension. This film is one of the most intense and satisfying suspenseful horror films in modern years. There's one thing James Wan can do when directing horror, it's build that tension, build that unease inside of you that when you watch the film, you feel a little weird, you're just tingly all over. You're just waiting for something to happen, and it only happens when at the right time for it to happen. It's not just something that doesn't feel natural. James Wan knows how to do a natural horror film, and he knows when to hit with the scares. He knows when to build the suspense. He's an amazing director and one of my favorite today in horror and or just in film in general. The scene involving a music box in this film where the little girl, he winds it up and she said, when the music stops, you'll see someone standing behind you through the mirror. One part they use it as a way to build tension, like holy shit, is there actually something gonna pop up? Mother of the family, played by Lily Taylor, Carolyn Perron, actually uses it when they're playing this amazing game and concept called hide and go clap, which is basically a different take on hide and go seek. Basically one person gets their eyes closed, they're blindfolded, they get spin around for 10 seconds, they go hide, and then the only way you're allowed to find them is when you clap. You have to try to hear it and go get them, which plays into one of the most scariest and best parts of this film. Mother of the Perron family goes down the steps of the basement. She hears a lot of weird noises. She tries to run out when she sees this ball fly across the room. She gets up to the top of the stairs and the door hits her and she falls back down. She runs up right away and the lights go out. She takes a match out of her pocket and she lights the match, and she's just kind of holding it, and all of a sudden these little hands come out in the background and it's like clap, clap, and it is phenomenal. I remember people in the theater when I seen this jump out of their seats. I mean, I've seen kids in this film. They're probably 12, 13, 14 years old, and they actually ran out screaming at this one scene. Really enjoyed the climax of the film. I also enjoyed the side story of the Annabelle doll being used in a way to affect the Warrens. It's one part of the film. Vera Farmiga's character, Lorraine Warren, falls down through a chute inside of the house, in through the walls. She lands in the basement, and she sees a lot of messed up stuff. As she's running away, something grabs hold of her necklace that her daughter gave her. It's a shared locket with her daughter. It rips off her neck, and it gets hung up on a post downstairs. Of course, the entity of Bathsheba kind of uses this in a way to connect to the other locket in the Warrens' household, which she then uses the power from that locket to access Annabelle, which gives us another side story within a film that worked. It wasn't force-fed in there. I think the Annabelle side story in this absolutely worked. The little bit of the Annabelle doll and storyline we got in this film, The Conjuring, was a lot better, a million miles better than the actual spin-off film of The Conjuring we got about 2 years ago. Not saying enough about The Conjuring. I know I've said that about a couple films in the past before, but when I say I cannot say enough about a film, I mean I could sit down here and talk about it all day and give you my thoughts and opinions and why I think it's so great. But I think it's just so crafted in its own way that we've seen haunted house films done. We've seen some great ones in the past, like the first Amityville horror film, the Poltergeist film. We've even seen some kind of great exorcism films in the past with The Exorcist. Recent years, when it comes to modern cinema going horror films, we only got one or two directors that are actually giving us quality product. There's a lot of great indie films out there, like It Follows, The House of the Devil with Ty West. The last 10 to 15 years, we've been given a lot of great horror films, but a lot of them have been overseas or foreign or just indie horror films. But when it comes to actually the big screen, lots of press kind of horror films, James Wan has been knocking it out of the park. He's directed Saw, Dead Silence, Insidious 1 and Insidious Chapter 2, which are both great in their own regards, and The Conjuring. And now we're getting a sequel to this film called The Conjuring 2, which I'm really, really looking forward to, all because of this little film that probably would have been made for measly nothing in the past, because studios didn't trust horror. They didn't think horror was needed. They didn't think horror was a good genre to focus a lot of attention to in press and public. They'd rather do a horror remake than an original idea such as The Conjuring, which has been shopped around for like 20 years or something. James Wan got his hands on it and made this fantastic film. I'm gonna give The Conjuring a 5 out of 5, simply because I think it's a great horror film. I think it's one of the best, if not the best, horror film in the last 10 years. It's scary, it's suspenseful, it builds the tension, it does everything a horror movie should do right, and not to mention the acting. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga knocked it out of the park. Lily Taylor as the mother of the Prones, Carolyn, did an absolutely fantastic job. And to mention Ron Livingston, who was a great father figure in this film. There's not many horror films I'm going to give a 5 out of 5 grading to, but I think The Conjuring is James Wan's best film to date, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. The Conjuring 2, James Wan has been on record saying that he wants to give vital signs kind of deal back into horror. Make it what it used to be, this iconic thing that you'd go see the theaters. You go in, you sit down, you get scared. You want to get your emotions out during a horror film. You want to be scared. Real life, you don't want to be scared. No one wants to get scared in real life. But when you're immersed into a film that's so good that you're actually shaking from how scary it is, and then knowing you can walk out of this and knowing it's not real. That's what movies are about. Into something and immersing yourself into a film, enjoying what the genre is, if it's action, it's adventure, if it's a horror film, and coming out knowing, hey, that wasn't real, but I really enjoyed it. That's why I love horror. Horror, when done right, gives you a mixed ton of emotions. You root for that final girl. You want the cool villain to be around for more sequels. But mostly, you want to be scared. You want to be shaking. You want that feeling of anger and anxiety to build up inside you for a horror film. And then you can just walk out and say, hey, let's go do something else, because it's not real. It's a film, it's a horror film, and when it comes to The Conjuring, James Wan absolutely nailed it. I know this is a little lengthy of a review, but honestly, I love The Conjuring. It's one of my favorite films in recent years. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. As always, guys, take care, stay frosty, and have a happy, frightful Friday.